Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So this is going to be all about the Houses of the North and the North Remembers storyline. A lot of you guys have been asking me to do a video about the Northern Lords. The TV show looks like it's bringing some more of them on, but there are a whole bunch of houses. There are a lot of houses in the North, and a lot of them aren't ever going to show up on the TV show. So what I'm going to do is just a quick rundown of all the houses of the North, where they're at, and then I'm going to explain what the TV show might be doing with some of them. So just careful for spoilers if you haven't watched season 5 of the TV show yet, and new round of the giveaway starts now. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. So here we go. Starting with the greater houses, we have House Stark and House Bolton. House Stark obviously kind of scattered to the four winds right now all across the north. Sansa and Rickon on the run, Arya in the east still, and Jon Snow status pending. Yes, I have seen all the Jon Snow stuff. I'll add some links in the description. I've already done videos on Resurrection and all the stuff I think is going to be happening with his character. But House Bolton now controls Winterfell. Now they're also one of the bigger, lesser houses, but technically they now rule the north. As of the end of season 5, they successfully defended against Stannis' invasion of Winterfell, but Roose Bolton is still trying to secure the loyalty of the north. But you have Littlefinger kind of off to the side that's slowly playing him against King's Landing and playing King's Landing against him. So the North remembers, they hate the Boltons, and now King's Landing is probably going to hate the Boltons too. That's to say nothing of the Vale, which Littlefinger is also going to try and use against the Boltons, but that's like a completely separate entity. That's not really part of the North. Moving down south to Moat Cailin, typically that would be a place that's controlled by House Reed. You know, Howland Reed, haven't seen him on the show, seen his kids quite a bit, but maybe they'll bring him on at some point. As of the end of season 4, the Boltons had taken Moat Cailin from the Ironborn, so presumably Howland Reed is still running around the neck somewhere. TV show status, currently missing in action. Going back up to the north, we have the Karstarks in the Karhold. As you remember, during season 3, Robb Stark executed the lord of that house, Lord Karstark, so they're not super friendly with the Starks right now. So if any of the northern houses are not going to remember, then it's probably going to be the Karstarks. But also kind of up near this region is House Umber. Now you remember, we saw Great Jon Umber on the TV show. They'll probably remember because Great Jon Umber had a pretty good relationship with Robb Stark, and he was not present at the twins during the Red Wedding. So he's one of those characters with current status pending, but there's a character they cast for the TV show that looks like it might be Small Jon Umber. The other option being it could be someone from House Manderley, which is down in White Harbor. Now, they have a really bad relationship with the Boltons, so I think they're definitely going to remember, even if the TV show doesn't do them. They're one of the biggest houses that the show hasn't done yet, so I think that they're big candidates for new characters coming on the show. Moving over to the west side of the north, another big location, Deepwood Motte, seat of House Glover. They really just show up in the books, but they're also tangentially related to what's going on in the Telltale video game, because they also control Ironrath, which is the seat of House Forrester. I know everybody wants to see the video game characters show up on the TV show. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't think the TV show is ever going to reference what's going on in the video game. And even though there's a bunch of other houses in the books, the one other big one that I want to mention that might end up showing up on the TV show is House Cerwyn. That's the closest castle to Winterfell. Now they get tied up in Stannis' plotline in the books. If you remember, he is definitely still alive in the books, so regardless of what happens to him on the show, the books will continue with that Stannis storyline. But just because there's such a big presence that close to Winterfell, I do think the TV show will invoke them in some way, or at least reference them, like the way we got the reference to Bear Island in Lady Mormont. During season 5, before Stannis marched on Winterfell, he just asked some of the Northern Lords for support. The big joke is that Lady Mormont, who is like a really little girl, she's like a 10-year-old little girl, told Stannis to shove it. The only Lords of the North that I recognize are the Starks. So fingers crossed that we actually get to see her at some point, but the show might do that with some of the other lesser houses that they don't want to cast. Just like, reference them as funny jokes. If you take from all over the expanded canon, like the video games, the TV show, the books, there's about 45 houses in the North. That's how many there are. There's actually a lot of people that the show is never going to get around to doing. Regardless of what you think of the TV show and how it's changed things from the books, they've done a pretty good job in season 5 of foreshadowing what's going to be going on in and around the North during season 6. The North remembering that Boltons are assholes, status pending character remembering that the Night's Watch are assholes, and the Night's Watch and the Wildlings remembering that the White Walkers are assholes. Lots of assholes to go around in the North. I don't think that season 6 is going to be a complete revenge fantasy storyline. A lot of good people are still going to die, but I do think that we're due for a couple big notable wins. But let me know in the comments, beyond the North trying to turn the Boltons into lunch, what other big battles do you want to see in the North? Now I'm talking south of the Wall. There's a hornet's nest of shit going on down in King's Landing. You have the Martells down further south in Dorne. You have the Tyrells, the Reach, and Old Town. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on all over Westeros. And I don't want to get into direct spoilers about what's going on with a certain status pending character. There have been pictures of him all over the set. I feel like it was more fun to talk about that right after the season ended, trying to catch HBO in a lie, like the producers like, oh, we know what's going on with this character. You guys can say whatever you want. We know what's really going on. But now that it's kind of been turned into a literal thing, it's not quite as much fun anymore. It's like, yeah, more evidence. We already kind of knew what was going on. If you do want to talk about that though, just please use spoiler tags in the comments. What about Sansa and Rickon though? Sansa and Reek are on the run. Rickon's off with Osha. Unless Sansa runs into Brienne, which I think is somewhat unlikely, I think that she'll try to take in with one of the other Northern Lords that's loyal to the Starks. Rickon, on the other hand, unless they do a vast departure from his storyline, will show up closer to the east, so he might show up with the Umbers or in White Harbor with the Manderleys, whichever of those Northern Lords that the show is going to bring on. I do think that Sansa is going to stay with Reek for most of Season 6, and because there's so much Ironborn stuff going on, it's possible there could be some crossover between Sansa's storyline and the Ironborn storyline, but that remains to be seen, and it depends on how far Sansa and Reek go west. I think what we'd really like to see is a reverse Red Wedding on the Freys and the Boltons. A lot of you have been asking about trailers and such. Just remember that promotional material like that, new video, doesn't really drop till the spring of each year, so it's going to be a while before we see a Season 6 trailer. We are getting pretty close to the release of that Dunk and Egg book. I mean, it's been released internationally a couple places, but as soon as it does, I'll totally give a couple copies away. While you guys wait for that, you can actually click here to learn all about Dunk and Egg, and you can click here to learn all about Resurrection and A Song of Ice and Fire. I'll add some other links in the description too. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.